Our theme for this month is, who are especially acceptable to Jehovah?
Acceptable. The witnesses are especially acceptable to Jehovah. Hi friends, here's my recap of October 2021 JW Broadcasting. You know, when I think of the word acceptable, I think of something that's okay. Like, you know, when I don't want to complain about something that I really didn't like or that was subpar, I'll say it was acceptable. Like, how was your dinner the other night? It was acceptable. That's what I think of when I hear the word acceptable. So now Jehovah's Witnesses who slave for this organization are considered acceptable. You know, I can think of so many things in scripture about how God feels about us. Like, for instance, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Everlasting life. God so loved the world, non-Jehovah's Witnesses, but Jehovah's Witnesses are acceptable. Friends, I noticed a post on Reddit where he must be a PMO, physically in, mentally out, was faking doing letters, writing letters. And he said that another witness there in the group said that he had downloaded hundreds, I think he said hundreds of videos from jw.org to a thumb drive to hide them from the government because he wondered where he would get spiritually fed when the persecution begins. Feel free to pause the video to read it, but this is the mindset of the indoctrinated, friends. This is by design, and the governing body is to blame. They're false prophets, and Deuteronomy chapter 18 says, you should not fear false prophets. False prophets wield their power through fear. So, as a result, I've included my golf hit, my golf swing in this video as well. If you saw my governing body update, number 8, I think that was the one that I did last week or so. I explained that I put the golf hit in, which is a sound effect, because I think that we have heard these fear tactics so much that we have a tendency to skim them over. And I want to do this to demonstrate to you, to show you how often they really do speak words of fear, fear-based language, which places the indoctrinated in that mindset that they're under attack. So I do this to emphasize the repetitive nature of how they pummel their followers. So check out the golf hits for the things they say and the images that they show, friends. I don't want you to be fooled. This is our family and friends who are in this organization. Anyway, let's get into it. Take a look.
We want our sacrifices to be acceptable to him. But do you ever feel discouraged? Perhaps even guilty or frustrated regarding your sacrifices to Jehovah?
What is this guy talking about? Sacrifices? Sacrifices of what? Time and money? Why use that word sacrifice? Because listen, friends, this is a play on words. This is deliberate. And Christ was the final sacrifice. There is no more sacrificing in order to try to get to God. Let me just show you really quickly. The priests used to go into the temple to offer sacrifices, oftentimes the same sacrifices. You see that in verse 11? For the sins of the people. But yet verse 12, Jesus Christ offered himself one sacrifice for sins forever and then sat down at the right hand of God. So these witnesses are sacrificing their time by letter writing, by doing things for the organization. Let me ask you, how effective is letter writing anyway? Why doesn't the organization, if this is so important, this is the end time, why don't they do media, commercials, billboards? But yet they have these older JWs meeting in groups, even younger JWs meeting in groups, writing letters, handwriting letters. I remember when I used to write letters, friends, when I was pioneering many years ago, I would write flowing script and so slow that I could get as much time as I possibly could in the letters that I was writing. You know the drill. And what is their message anyway? That God is going to overthrow earthly governments? They're using and they're abusing the indoctrinated to keep them so busy and so obligated that they can't think for themselves, friends. So anyway, let's keep going and take note of the golf hits.
For example, you may have been very involved in the work, but unexpectedly your circumstances changed because of your health or some other calamity that came along and shut things down. Such feelings may cause us to ask ourselves, what does Jehovah really expect of us? The Christians in Judea were facing many trials, and these trials included famine, persecution, and the plundering of their belongings.
All right, so listen, he goes on to explain how people are to give funds according to what he has. Now, this is interesting because not too long ago, I don't know if it was a study article or what it was, but maybe it was a JW Broadcasting. I don't know, but I did a recap and they were talking about the widow's mite. You know that verse where the widow went up into the temple and gave the last thing that she had, and they were applauding her for this. She gave everything, therefore you can too, and Jehovah will bless you. Now they're saying, only give according to what you have. Can you imagine how confusing this is to the rank and file, friends? Anyway, watch this analogy.
Paul had encouraged the Corinthians to set aside funds to help the brothers in Judea. He urged them to get their gifts ready. What's the lesson for us? So, what we do in the way of work for the organization must never crowd out the spiritual activities that keep us close to God. You see, that would be unacceptable to Jehovah. Jehovah expects us to care for our family.
All right, so yes, caring for family needs would definitely be a good thing. So he moves on, he goes back to some old Awake magazines to give them tips about time management. And then the next thing he does is he compares biblical prophets, Ezekiel, Daniel, and Jeremiah, to the witnesses, and it's just unbelievable.
When considering this aspect of not comparing, I think of the prophets Daniel, Ezekiel, and Jeremiah. Daniel was in the court of the king in Babylon. Yes, he had times of persecution and challenges, but overall, he was an official for the king. Ezekiel was living among his fellow exiles in a community by the river Kibar. Overall, things were fairly stable there. Then you have Jeremiah. He was in Jerusalem. It seems somebody was always trying to kill him. Much of the time he was either hiding or in confinement. So here's the question. Did the differing circumstances of their assignments mean that Jehovah loved or favored one more than the other? Not at all. It was just an assignment. It was just the way the assignments fell. Ezekiel and Jeremiah could have looked at Daniel and thought, oh, he has direct access to the king. He's living where all the big decisions are being made. I wish I was there. Daniel and Jeremiah could have looked at Ezekiel and felt that's where they wish they were. Or, believe it or not, Daniel and Ezekiel could have looked at Jeremiah and thought, we know things are tough, but that's where we want to be. He's on the front lines, risking his life for Jehovah and the nation. The lesson is that we must be careful that we do not compare ourselves unfavorably with others.
This is such nonsense. Can you believe this? Anyway, he goes on and on with this, but I edited it out to save some time. Let's keep going.
At this, Peter began to speak, and he said, now I truly understand that God is not partial, but in every nation, the man who fears him and does what is right is acceptable to him. Fear Jehovah, do what is right, obey his commandments. That's it. That's what makes us acceptable to Jehovah.
So that's what makes the witnesses acceptable to Jehovah. And he quotes from Acts chapter 10. Acts chapter 10 is about Cornelius and Peter, and when God had let the sheet down with unclean animals and told Peter to eat. And basically what God was saying was that, listen, the Messiah came, he was rejected, he died, and he was raised from the dead, and the Jews denied him still, so salvation was being opened to the Gentiles. You can pause the video to read this slide, but in verse 34, when God said God is no respecter of persons, look down in purple to the purple arrows in verse 45. He was saying that, and they of the circumcision, meaning the Jews, which believed, were astonished, as many as came with Peter, because that on the Gentiles also was poured out the gift of the Holy Ghost. So the Jews, who thought that because they were from Abraham, they had salvation, were astonished because now salvation was open to the Gentiles. Acts is a transition book, friends. If you read Acts, you'll see in the beginning how when the apostles had scattered when Jesus died, they come back in Acts 2 boldly, speaking in different languages because Jesus had been resurrected bodily and death was abolished for those who believe. While we, of course, die in this life, we're raised to new life in Jesus Christ. But that's what the beginning of Acts is all about. But at the stoning of Stephen, when the Jews still rejected the Messiah, God turned to the Gentiles. It's a transition book. Doctrine cannot be found in the book of Acts. And what this guy is saying, Acts chapter 10 is all about, it is not about Jehovah's Witnesses being acceptable to Jehovah.
Work is a gift from Jehovah. Is it reasonable to think that Jehovah would give a gift that stresses us out or creates hardship for us? No. He wants us to find enjoyment in our work. We are the ones that may get too concerned with assigning rank and priority.
Seriously? What about the lofty pioneers? Why not do away with the pioneer arrangement? It appears that the rank and file members are being blamed for something that the governing body members, Watchtower, is doing that causes division and competition. All right, moving along. He now shows a dramatization about maintaining balance. I included a golf hit right at the beginning based on an image. Take a look.
Miss Kwan? Miss Kwan?
Oh. Sorry. I'm so slow today.
So can you pioneer next month? No doubt you will experience greater joy.
Brother Chu. Brother Chu,
Yes, Sister
over here.
Kwan?
Can I have one too?
Of course. And remember, our circuit overseer visit is in 2 months. And only 30 hours are required that month.
I see.
Brother Jew.
Yes, hello, Brother Lee.
Hello, Sister Kwan.
Hello, Brother Lee.
If you want to get something done, give it to a busy man. We can always count on you.
Hannah and I were beginning to feel overwhelmed.
I need your help with something.
Then Brother Kim needed help with the territories. Yes, Brother Kim? Other more important things were beginning to suffer.
Oh, it's like doctor's appointments are my whole life now. How could I possibly make my time? Jehovah wanted the Israelites to sacrifice their best. But just imagine what would happen if they tried to do more than they could.
Dad, where'd all the sheep go?
All of them? What are we supposed to live on?
No, he didn't want them to sacrifice so much that they couldn't support their families.
Friends, what does sacrificing sheep at the Jewish temple under the Old Covenant, the Mosaic Law, have to do with a woman finding time to pull rank and pioneer? The temple was destroyed after Jesus Christ, the ultimate sacrifice, laid down his life. It's ridiculous. But anyway, let's keep going. He shows another video. Take a look.
No, they felt good knowing they were giving Jehovah all they can give.
I started pioneering in 1978, straight out of school. And then after 17 years, I had to stop because I could no longer meet the hour requirement. Even if I couldn't continue pioneering, I could do something more in Jehovah's service by learning sign language. And so I started to do that. Because I was deeply grateful to Jehovah for all he had done for me, I resumed pioneering again in September 2009. And then I had the added blessing of now pioneering in sign language field.
All right, so this pioneer meets this very shy Cecilia at the door and starts to study with this woman who has this disease of tunnel vision that leads to blindness and deafness. All right, the rest of the story is just too much. Check this out.
And quickly I realized that she would also need to put in effort to get to the meetings in order to make progress. Cecilia lived close to where she could catch a taxi up to the train line, and then it would be 2 train journeys to get to the Kingdom Hall. So it would take her each way an hour and a half to 2 hours. She also lived in a notoriously unsafe area because of gang violence. But I knew that Cecilia was strong-willed enough and independent enough, in spite of her timidity and reticence, to be able to get herself to the meetings.
This pioneer lives 5 minutes from the Kingdom Hall, but has to travel 30 minutes away to pick up this Bible study. Was there nobody else who lived out that way who could do it? But anyway, so she expects her to make progress by traveling 1.5 to 2 hours each way through areas that are notorious for gang violence. If that's not bad enough, this woman is shy, deaf, and going blind. But there's another problem.
Cecilia was attending meetings regularly, but instead of a skirt, she wore pants to the meeting.
So this very shy, deaf, and nearly blind Bible study is traipsing 1.5 hours each way through gang violence infested areas in pants. But that's not acceptable. But success, after a year of giving her hints and showing her Bible stories, she finally decides to wear a skirt. Now she gets to do this through gang-infested areas with a skirt. Isn't that progress? This 28-year veteran pioneer says she thanks Jehovah because finally our patience has been rewarded. The patience that this woman is now wearing a skirt other than pants. All right, so now they move on to their series, My Teen Life, which resembles a TV reality show. It's full of happy, bubbly teenage Jehovah's Witnesses who I'm sure never ever dreamed that they would be TV stars. Take a look.
So I'm sitting in physics class, and all of a sudden, the subject of evolution comes up.
When my teacher asked me why, to give the reason why I don't believe in evolution, I remember all I could say was, it's just because I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses and that's my belief. I could explain why I don't salute the flag so easily, why I don't celebrate birthdays so easily. I didn't understand why I couldn't explain this specific topic. We went to jw.org, and then in the search box, my mom told me to type in anything that was the problem, what I had questions on. So we typed in evolution. That's when I clicked on the Origin of Life brochure. You know, Jehovah always provides the answers to any topic, anything. I just have to be willing to go and find it.
And Jehovah has made it so easy for us to find the truth.
So this girl who could give an answer as to why she didn't salute the flag and why she didn't celebrate birthdays and why she doesn't do a lot of things couldn't give an answer as to why she doesn't believe in evolution. So what does she do? She goes to jw.org to find an answer. So listen, I have to stop here. I just want to take a trip down memory lane. Do you remember this book, The Creation Book? This was really big when I was in the organization. Something interesting, because this book cited Francis Hitching quite a bit as a primary source, calling him an evolutionist. But it turns out that Watchtower became somewhat of a laughing stock because Francis Hitching is not an evolutionist at all. Francis Hitching is a dowser, an author whose books often focus on the paranormal. Do you know what a dowser is? A dowser is one who uses divination. What is up, Watchtower? Either you don't know how to do research on your sources, or you relate to those who practice paranormal activity.
Hi, I'm Taylor, and this is Iron Sharpens Iron.
So this new series, Iron Sharpens Iron, has to do with the CO, Circuit Overseer, answering questions. Now, I remember about 20 years ago, Christianity was really big on Iron Sharpens Iron movements. Just do an internet search. You'll see that there were classes and Sunday school classes and publications based on iron sharpening iron. So is Watchtower copying off of what Christendom did 20 years ago? Very interesting. Anyway, this session of Iron Sharpens Iron features a circuit overseer kind of directing two sisters in a role play situation. It's classic sales 101, where a right way to communicate a particular issue is demonstrated versus a wrong way, and he offers tips to them. I edited the majority of it out because it's just too much. And then lastly, they move on to a morning worship starring William Turner, and he explains in his talk about it's all about having empathy for the brothers, but in doing so, he really focuses so much on fear tactics, repeatedly using words such as death, fear, hardships, endurance, anxiety, intense persecution, and many more. I edited it out for the sake of time, so there would have been a lot of golf hits in this way, but here's a glimpse.
Now, for many, this can be terrifying. And we can become so overwhelmed with anxiety or nerves, thinking about how the conversation will end, that we never even start. So when we see someone that we would like to talk to, we want to keep these 3 steps in mind. Number 1, be friendly. And that's it.
Perhaps a good example of how not to show comfort and fellow feeling is described for us by Job's 3 comforters. You might recall they were so busy judging him and giving Job speeches that they failed to take the time to understand him and to show fellow feeling.
Watchtower loves to talk about Job, but what's interesting is they love to focus on this guy, Elihu. I've at least recapped on 2 or 3 other occasions where they spoke of Elihu. There's so much in the book of Job that they could cover, but this mysterious character who shows up in chapter 32, nobody knows where he comes from, and nobody responds to him, including God, when God rebukes Job's friends and restores Job. Elihu is a mystery, and for some reason, Watchtower loves him. I don't know why. I started to do a quick internet search to try to figure out what it's all about, but for the sake of time, I stopped. So if anybody knows, leave me a comment, but check it out.
But the young man Elihu, when he was given the opportunity to speak, when addressing Job, he respectfully addressed him by name.
When you were younger, life seemed so simple. You did your best to do what's right, giving answers and preaching the good news. You would pray each and every night. But as you got older, with this world trying to mold you, suddenly it is not so easy to be knocking on those doors. But as you get taller, smarter, trying to work harder, never let go of Jehovah. The best is still in store. You have the treasured place in Jehovah's house. He'll help you out. And you have so much to offer, so much to do. Jehovah sees your faith, no, he treasures you. Now you are older and dealing with changes, like all the trials have just begun. Growing anxious from all of your fears. Talk to God, he always listens. Use your strength for Jehovah's name. So use your strength for Jehovah's name. You won't regret it. Just ask the ones who did it.
Let's visit our brothers and sisters in Madagascar. Our brothers share the good news despite frequent rain showers and the great distances they have to walk between villages. Here, 2 sisters are conducting a study while others wait their turn. Interested ones walk up to 16 kilometers, or about 10 miles every week to attend meetings. The village has no electricity, so to download big video files such as convention videos, this elder and other brothers travel 12 hours, mainly by boat to the nearest town.
Well, that's it for October 2021 JW Broadcasting, friends, where the rank and file's slaving for this organization is acceptable to their God. Turn to the one who died for you, friends. Jesus died for all mankind. Simply appreciating what he did through the shedding of his blood, repenting and turning from doing things your way, or as in a Jehovah's Witness, the organization's way, turn it to doing Jesus's way, and he will save you, friends. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.